Hello there. Continuing Roger Rabbit Month, we look at the question Robert Zemeckis is always asked whenever he is often promoting his latest film. When is there going to be a Roger Rabbit sequel? Considering what a big success Who Framed Roger Rabbit was in 1988, it's somewhat surprising that all we've gotten since then are 3 shorts and an occasional theme park ride, but no sequel. Well, sit down, because there's quite an interesting story as to why that is. What's unique about the Roger Rabbit character in the Walt Disney Company is that he's also partly owned by Steven Spielberg's Amblin Company, and anytime they want to use him, whether in a short or sequel, they need Spielberg's permission. Considering he's a bit of a quality hound and won't attach his name to just anything, they could not simply slap together a lame duck sequel. So newly hired screenwriter Nat Malden got hard at work to make a worthwhile screenplay that would satisfy both Michael Eisner and Steven Spielberg. The idea he proposed was actually a prequel that showed how Roger got into the business. So no Eddie Valiant here, I'm afraid. It would revolve around how he first met Jessica when searching for his mother, and due to its World War II setting, Roger would also have to fight a Nazi spy. Hey, that has some great potential. It could be an homage to those classic World War II era propaganda cartoons in which our favorite cartoon characters would fight Nazis in glorious animated violence. Can you imagine the endless potential of that? Not to mention a sweet love story between Roger and Jessica. One clever concept is that the army used Toon's immortal abilities to stop shooting bullets from hitting soldiers. Also, the reveal Roger's mother was going to be Bugs Bunny in drag. Why wasn't that ultimately made? Well, when the screenplay was handed in, Spielberg had recently completed Schindler's List, and did not feel comfortable treating Nazis as comedic foils, like he had done in the Indiana Jones series. So he rejected the project, and he was back to the writing desk. Probably so desperate to capitalize on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but wanting to move around that pesky deal with Spielberg, Disney Television Animation made Bonkers, which revolved around a cartoon character who was recruited by the Hollywood police force, where he is paired up with an Eddie Valiant-like detective. Though a number of animators and directors who worked on Bonkers did not have the highest opinion, since they felt the comedy was lost by making the whole show animated. Their argument was how odd it is that Bonkers' Toon-hating partner was himself an animated character. After all, one of the reasons Bob Hoskins' performance worked so well is that he played it completely straight and human, despite having a cartoon co-star. Back to the prequel, Who Discovered Roger Rabbit, producers Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy made the excellent decision to hire Animaniacs writers Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver to do a new version of the screenplay. Gone was the World War II subplot, and instead, it would show Roger starting his career on vaudeville before moving to Hollywood. This led it to being a tribute to classic movie musicals in the Fred Astaire Ginger Rogers vein, and as such, Alan Menken was hired to write songs for the film. One of them, This Only Happens in the Movies, would later be recorded and officially released, and it's a really sweet song that kind of reminds me of Charlie Chaplin's iconic tune, Smile. With the advances in technology, newly hired animation director Eric Goldberg was asked to perform a test where hand-drawn tunes would interact with computer-generated props. It did not look great, so another test was commissioned with Roger turned into a CG character.
So what do you think, big fella?
This was considered more of a success with the executives, but I actually have a problem with it. Now, I'm not one of those people who hates computer animation. In fact, I think it's a brilliant tool that has produced some of the most spectacular special effects in film history. However, from a story standpoint, it makes no sense for a film about animated characters set in the 1940s to have Roger be computer animated. Ultimately, Who Discovered Roger Rabbit was put on the shelf again, but not because of Spielberg, but instead due to Eisner feeling the budget was too high. This seems odd now with escalating budgets on film franchises, but before, it was quite common for sequels to make less than their predecessors. That's right, once upon a time in Hollywood, sequels were considered a somewhat risky investment. And so instead, Michael Eisner decided to give Roger's proposed budget to Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. Since then, there have still been many musings about a Roger Rabbit sequel. Robert Zemeckis seems to flip back and forth about the possibility of one, as have producers Don Hahn and Kathleen Kennedy. The original screenwriters, Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman, were reportedly writing a screenplay, but us folks on the outside haven't heard a single thing about it for a while now. Honestly, the only sequel to an 80s property I've heard more on and off news about is Ghostbusters 3. Sorry, Dan Aykroyd, until you actually start filming the damn thing, I'm not going to believe it's actually happening. Recently, Bob Hoskins did express some interest in reprising the role of Eddie Valiant, but that seems unlikely now, as he has sadly retired from acting due to Parkinson's. However, I do have an idea for where a possible sequel could go. You may recall in the original film, Betty Boop is forced to work as a cigarette girl because of cartoons going to color.
What are you doing here?
Work's been kind of slow since cartoons went to color. But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop-be-doo.
Yeah, you still got it.
Well, in this day and age, where computer animation is dominating the industry, what if it revolves around the hand-drawn toons having trouble finding work? This could lead some interesting commentary, including how characters like Popeye and Wile E. Coyote are replaced by CG versions of themselves, and even make fun of how real people are taking work from toons via motion capture, though I'm not sure how Robert Zemeckis would take to such a joke. Throw in a mystery plot and you could have something special. Just a possible idea for a Roger Rabbit sequel I have anyway. Recently, Gary Wolfe, the author of Who Censored Roger Rabbit, the book that inspired the first film, has put together a pitch to Disney for a possible sequel. Based on the Jerry Lewis comedy The Stooge, it would team up Roger and Mickey Mouse. He's also proposing new shorts that will spoof Alfred Hitchcock classics. Whether Disney is considering it, or the project is just wishful thinking on Wolfe's part, we'll see how it goes either way. In the end, whether we get a sequel or not, the original film still holds up remarkably well. In this day and age of resurrecting 1980s franchises, is it really the end of the world if we don't get Gremlins 3, Ghostbusters 3, or Roger Rabbit 2? But if Disney and Robert Zemeckis ever do get around to making the sequel, hopefully, through all the years in development hell, it'll be something worthy of sitting next to the first film. See you next time.